Okay, so I'd like to call the meeting to order. First thing is approval minutes of April 3rd. Motion to approve.
Make a motion, we approve the minutes of April 3rd.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Next is addition to the agenda. I had one, which was building report bids. Are there any others? Is there a second to add that to the agenda?
A second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Next, are there any communications? Public comments? Welcome to public. So first on our agenda is Camp Mohawk. Welcome Pat Martian, and I think Camp Mohawk is one of Cornwall's hidden gems, and even though Pat just wanted to meet with me, I thought it was an opportunity to come and talk to the board and say a little bit about what the camp is up to. And I had the opportunity to go up there last fall and meet the leadership up there and see some of the new progress that's being made up there. So it's a good opportunity. We try to have people come in different parts of town to talk about what's going on. So
Yeah,
here's your chance. And
appreciate it.
yeah,
Thanks. Yeah, so my name is Pat Martian. I'm just recently took over for my father as the executive director at Camp Mohawk. So we've been in that spot since 1919 as a YMCA, and right now since '68 it's been an all-girls overnight camp running in Cornwall. And recently we've had a good run of success, and one of the newest things besides myself is that the YMCA overall has loosened up the rules about service area. So before, we actually weren't allowed to service our own community. And because the Northwest Connecticut YMCA owned the service area and the rights to do anything. So we were only allowed to do resident camp, and that was it. And now those have changed. So besides introducing myself and just make sure everyone was aware of where we exist and what we do, I can also get involved in community more now, which I really like to do. Whether it's helping out with a mentor program or field day up at our camp for the school, or even join a committee, or we have meeting spaces up there if you need training or meeting spaces. It's really to let you know we're here, and we have, in season, we're completely full and busy, from June really until the end of August. But out of season, it's a beautiful spot. It's a nice place. I'd like to get some of the Cornwall community up there and see what it is and see what's in Cornwall. Our main objective is it's all girls, is to have these girls, as many girls as possible up at the camp and to grow in independence. And we've been doing that successfully for a long time. So now it's a chance to branch out and really reach into this community. I'm interested in it. I kind of grew up here. My parents moved here in '87, and I've always ridden my bikes around and met a lot of people, but never been part of the community. So I hope to just help out any way I can. If you think of any ideas, or I can meet the principal of school or anything like that, I'd love to.
great. Yeah, no, I have verbally repeated what you said about trying to get more Cornwall people involved with the camp and things to the school principal and school board people, and I think we'll make an effort before school's out to do that, because it would be a good place, because the school is stressing a lot of outdoor education, and that seems to be really important to a lot of people who live here, and looking at living here is the outdoors, and here's a whole facility. We're lucky to have Mohawk ski area in the winter, but to have our own camp is a pretty special setup.
Yeah, I'd be up for working with Cornwall just to come up with a discount for camp age girls that come to camp. I mean, we're a YMCA, so we don't say no for any financial reason. But if there's anything to do to help attract, we're looking for families to come to Cornwall. So
Right.
anything like that, I'd be willing to work with, because I'd like to reach out to the community more for our clientele as well. We hold 4 camp age girls from this area total last year out of 870. And it really should be more. They just don't think of us.
Because you're on top of the hill.
On top of the hill, and they do think that we're probably pretty expensive. And,
Yeah.
and if you look at us, we are, but you know, if you're making 80, 90,000 or less, you only have to pay a fraction of the fee.
Mm.
But it would be nice if we could also, specifically because we're in Cornwall, say, just because you're in Cornwall, not go to Canton.
Did I hear you say, though, that up until just recently, it was sort of by design or by contract that you were not involved in the
Yeah.
community?
Yeah, we weren't allowed to do any fundraising, we weren't allowed to do day camp or any kind of social work or anything like that. It's a really ridiculous YMCA USA.
But that has recently changed,
Yep,
and that's part of the reason you're stepping forward, stepping right out and...
exactly. Now I'm
Well, that's
supposed to get
great.
approval from the YMCA CEO, but I know he doesn't reach into Cornwall. There's nothing going on here that the Northwest, the Torrington YMCA does, I don't think, that I'm aware of. So, you know, for like running a day camp, for instance, for local kids, we tried to do it, and they did a cease and desist on us, and we had to stop the day camp. And we already printed up, you know, a few $1,000s worth of brochures and had kids and buses, everything ready. So it's something I'm going to look
Well,
into.
that's pretty exciting, though, that you know, that whether the rule changed because you pushed it to change, or whether it happened and now you're taking advantage of that new ability to be a much more involved member in the community. That's a positive thing for you and a positive thing for the community.
It is, yeah, it's great. Part of it was the Y wanted their full fee, which we weren't paying because they were restricting us. And that wasn't just Mohawk, there's 27 of us around the country that have independent resident camps like this. So we all finally got together, and now we have a voice with the YMCA, so that's kind of how it happened. So.
Good.
Do you have a one-page flyer that I could give to the school to send home in backpacks? They do that for
Yep.
summer opportunities, and I think it would be good just to
Yeah,
at least start with that would be good.
yeah, I'll just get the number and I'll bring them down.
Right.
Yeah, it's a brochure, which I'm happy to give out.
That'd be great, yeah, so we could have like 50 or 40 or whatever, something like that.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, we have one session that's open, but I've been squeezing a few more the rest of the time. So.
And you said you had 870 campers there in the course of summer?
Yep.
That's good.
So we have 4 2-week sessions and 1 1-week session. Our max is 212, and right now we're already maxed out from June until August 18th, but the last week we still have some spots. So just recently it's been like that. I started signing up in October, November, which is nice. But if I start getting kids from Cornwall, I'll save spots.
Great.
Just for local until it's late. But that would be ideal. If I save like 10 spots, if there are 10 girls that are kid
Right.
age. they might
I'm
wanna
sure
go.
there's, find some.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, I mean, just bring them up there so they see it.
Yeah,
That'll make a big deal.
yeah, it's a great location.
Yeah.
Great, well, any other questions for Patrick?
It is a hidden gem.
Yeah, there's just a lot of opportunity, you know.
Yeah. And just, I know the answer, but what programs do you offer? I mean, because there's sailing, horseback, right? I mean, it's not just, you're not out in the camp spawning flies. You're doing,
Right.
there's a lot of different things going on.
Yeah, so we have a high, low ropes course. We have almost everything you can think of on a pond that doesn't have a motorboat. So kayaking, paddleboarding, sailing, canoeing, fun yaking. A cool course now is log rolling, which is really taken off.
Huh.
It's very popular. You start with training wheels, and then you take them off as you get better. And it's around the country. It's getting a little bit more popular, which I think for this area would be kind of cool. It's just something probably looking cool, but. You know, and then we have the arts, the arts and crafts, the jewelry making, ceramics. We have the kilns up there, and the glazing and all that. We do cooking, and then the boutiquing and tennis, basketball, gaga courts. And we do have 45 different activities the girls can choose from. Drama production. So we have a stage. We recently built some new inside spaces. That was mainly meant for rainy day space. But I don't know, you know, I was thinking of whether you guys need some meeting spaces or training spaces. Our lodge and our rec hall would be good spots to just do stuff like that. Or
Hmm.
maybe have something there instead of here for PTO meeting or I don't know, something like that. But really, it's just I mean, you go up there on any certain day, we could be doing anything. The girls choose those individual activities, but on Saturdays, we're doing the weirdest things like color wars and mystery night and, you know, gold rush and just weird, crazy things. So,
You do have horses up there.
yeah, sorry, that's one of the biggest programs we have is horseback riding. So 23 horses. We also have a farm program, pigs, chickens, sheep, goats and sheep. And that's great for a lot of girls that don't get a chance in school to participate in animal husbandry. You know, they get to touch them, feed them, and learn about them. And that's almost half of our girls take horseback riding though.
Hmm. And you have trails up there too?
Not for horseback riding.
Really?
Not too much. I mean, if we do, we don't utilize them as much as we used to. We used to do trail riding, but now just keep them in the rings and teach them. The advance will go a little bit on Mom's Ruins and stuff like that. We have an equestrian camp where they ride 4 hours a day, and they go a little bit further out.
Mm-hmm.
But, not too much trail riding anymore. They used to go up to the top of the mountain, either Ethan Allen Park or something like that. The campground? I forget what it's called.
Allen Road? Yeah.
Yeah. So they used to do that, but they don't do that anymore. So.
Great. Well, anyway.
Thank you.
Thanks for
Appreciate
coming
your
in.
time and
What ages?
7 to 15 are the campers, and then 16, 17 are junior counselors. And then on up is, you know, they're all, from 16 on up, you're getting paid, but it's still a program. And we have a CIT, counselor training program as well. So,
And
but
how long has it been there since?
it's been in Cornwall since 1920. So we're having our 100th anniversary here, so Labor Day 2000.
And how many acres?
45. Soon, hopefully, to be 6.78 more. So we're in the process of trying to purchase the property on Clark Road, and hopefully, I met with Ted
Priscilla.
Schilling, Ann's son, and so first time I met the neighbors, and they're great. They've been there for a long time too.
Karen Nelson, I think, is the other person you met with.
No, I mean, I met with our neighbors.
Oh.
Ted Schilling. And
Schillingers,
And
yeah.
Schillinger's son.
Right.
Yeah, we came out to camp and we talked about possibly getting a walkway so the property. So then we'll be a little bit more next month possibly.
Kathy Weber is coming on Thursday.
Okay. Good.
The last thing, I'm glad you mentioned that, is I am looking for employment as well. Right now I'm looking for a full-time maintenance guy, and I'd rather pull from Cornwall than anywhere else if it's possible, or we hire for all sorts of reasons, for development, for graphic design, for, you think of a camp, but we have a lot of needs outside, so if you hear anybody in the community,
Do you have a card or?
yeah. Let's give you a bunch.
My mother went to Camp Mohawk in the 30s.
No kidding?
Wow.
I met a couple of lifelong friends there.
That's great.
Right.
We just
That's a
had
nice
somebody
story.
stop down and give us this Harriet Clark's History of Cornwall book.
Right.
Hope Hutchinson was her name, and in that's got a nice history of Camp Mohawk as well, but we know Harriet, and she's the one that sold a lot of the land to us back in the day. I think the last time on the record was 1960, something like that.
Hmm.
But it was cool. 1930s, they were packed back then. They actually started off better than we're doing now. I don't know how they fit. I have no idea how they fit those kids in there.
Yeah.
I think we're doing really good, and then I looked back at the enrollment. It's just no way to pack them in there nowadays.
It was a different time, though. People lived differently.
Yeah,
I mean, I think it was a different situation. A room that we would think is a one-child bedroom, maybe 2 children, 4, 5, 6. I mean,
yeah.
People-
Pictures of the dining hall are just, they're everywhere. They're on the sides, they're up on the stage, they're sitting everywhere at a good time.
Great. All right, well, thanks for sharing your story with us.
Yeah. appreciate
We'll
it.
be in touch, Jim. If you want to drop by 40 brochures, we could, what ages again do you have?
7 to 15.
7 to 15.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, so we can,
It's really 7 to 13 at this point because the 14, 15-year-olds are kind of full. Well,
right,
yeah. Should I just drop it off here?
sure, that'd be great,
Okay.
anytime. Good, okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Do I stick around?
You can stick around, you can hear about the rest of our stuff. It's not too thrilling, but it all works. So next we have Roger King, talk about bridges. Current and future and past.
Well, I've had a couple of conversations with Dave Batista. I had a meeting with him on Friday for a couple of hours, and we made some significant progress. We're back on the same page if we weren't for a little while. You have about 3 sets of maps in front of you. One is for the gravel bank, and that's just primarily a general location map. I talked to David, and he will have all the information necessary for us to go ahead and have the pre-bid meetings for both bridges next week. So I'm hoping tonight we might be able to set up a date that we would like to actually have that pre-bid meeting here at the town hall. And that
When
would be-
is he gonna have the material ready?
It should be ready tomorrow. So by the end of the week for sure. I'm aiming for around Monday or Tuesday next week to invite all of the teams that sent letters of interest in. We have 8 teams that sent letters of interest if they would like to bid on this design build projects. There are 2 separate projects. They can do them independently. I would suggest that they definitely submit them independently. They can bid them both at the same time. They're both small, single span, single lane bridges. One of the other questions I have for the board is if you look at the map showing Route 128, there's a map of just the bridge, and that's essentially what is going to be, that's this 3rd page, which shows the post office across the street and the bridge, and it shows a dotted line with a 24-inch pipe coming down to the bridge. So that's really what we're going to be bidding on, asking contractors to come up with a design build project for the replacement of the superstructure there. The other, the 3rd map that you have is more of the, I'm going to call it a driveway. This is going to be a temporary relocated driveway down by the old Bates Meat Market, coming out into the railroad depot yard. That is something I've lately discussed with Gordon, and am wondering if the Board of Selectmen would like to give that assignment to the town road crew. It's something that can be done entirely with gravel. It doesn't require any significant material other than gravel and shaping it up. It does get a little tight. You'll notice that they right at the back of the old meat market, which is the front building. It's the smaller building labeled on the map. It gets down to about 9 foot.
Got the one that's labeled number 1 Smith Place?
Yes. So that's the tightest area. The rest of it all pretty much is 12 to 13 foot in width, which is, fortunately, the area that's 9 foot is essentially a straightaway. Only one vehicle will be able to go through there at a time. But again, this is just a temporary driveway for what should be not more than a couple of months worth of time. The actual bridge being out should only be about 30 days is what I'm aiming for. But we're allowing the contractor engineering team to come up with their recommendations. The Board of Selectmen will have to review the proposals and determine what works best for the town of Cornwall. But we're at a point where we can send out an invitation to this pre-bid meeting. It will be a mandatory pre-bid meeting because I don't want anyone to try to bid on it without knowing what it is they're looking for. And we will send out electronic invitations to the 8 teams that submitted letters of interest.
So, the pre-bid meeting, so we will send out, in addition to the invitation, we will send out, the bid specifications before, a
Right.
week before the meeting or something, so they have some idea what
Right.
we're talking about.
But those bid specifications are going to be relatively, again, Dave and I went over this, and we will show it to you before we send it out. But this will all be available electronically, just like the plans that we do have available in a much larger format, but they'll have to print them out themselves. We don't have to print them out and mail them to them. So this is all going to be done electronically. They're going to submit to us what they want as far as specifications. We're going to put the bond requirements, the insurance requirements, that type of thing in our invitation to bid. But they're actually going to come up with how they would like to do it and what type of design they want. And then it'll be up to us to choose what design works best for us.
And whatever all these submissions would meet engineering code and be reviewed by our engineer.
Right. Dave Batista and Leonard will review them all and make sure they're all, structurally sound. They're all very simple solutions. It's just a matter of meeting the town's criteria.
There's a limited number of options here, right?
In my opinion, yes. I suppose it's limited only to the imagination. I've talked to a few people who've had some interesting ideas, things that I don't think would be economical, but we've talked about galvanized, structures. I'm not a big fan of steel over such an active watercourse as Mill Brook. I generally prefer the steel to be encased in concrete. But I'm trying not to eliminate any concept. Dop makes a very good galvanized steel structure. I suppose if the price were significantly advantageous, I definitely recommend considering it. I don't think that's going to be the case, but I've dealt with Dop before, and they do good work, but they're not inexpensive. So the Smith Place, I still have just a superstructure replacement in mind there, and everybody seems to go along with that. I did have a call from Mohawk Northeast. They would like to get involved with whatever they're going to do sooner rather than later in order that they can schedule their summer. I see Town and Rail has been awarded a bridge replacement in Litchfield over on Rush Hill Road. I assume it's very similar to the one on Flat Rock Road, but I don't want contractors to get too busy before we get around to soliciting bid packages from them.
So the schedule would be you have the pre-meeting or the meeting next week.
And then they'd have approximately 30 days to submit a proposal.
So next week is
Around the 23rd.
20, so we were looking at having bids in hand before Memorial Day. Bids in
Yes.
hand about May the 15th to 20th. of May.
Right, about the 23rd of May. I'm figuring if we had the pre-bid meeting somewhere around the 23rd of April, we should be able to have the bid opening somewhere around the 23rd of May and be able to make an assignment at that time.
Do they need that much time?
30 days? Reasonably, yes. I mean, they could probably do it in a week if they were hard pressed to do it.
No, of course, but then you lose something by
Right.
forcing somebody to do it so quickly. But if they're going to electronically obtain the documents this week,
Mhm.
can we start the clock from this week?
We can do it
Prior to the prior to the meeting? I mean, the meeting is only going to be to clarify some issues. If they get the
They
document,
really won't be, they can get the documents and get a good idea of where and what, but they won't really know how to proceed until they've had this pre-bid meeting. I wouldn't feel that we were being fair if we gave them less than 3 weeks. You know, typically I would say 30 days is more than reasonable. But it's up to the board what you want to do.
what
What
will
I would like to
be,
do is to see the bids before they go out to the contractors.
Oh,
And I
the
think,
bid package, certainly.
well, I think, because this, if we're talking about meeting, if we're talking about meeting with the contractors next week, we still haven't seen any documents.
Right, and there is not going to be much for documents. It's going to say that
we
they're
need
going
to
to
see
have to make.
We want to see what they see before they see it.
Okay. we will-
Because if
we
there's
will
some,
do that.
I mean, I think we have to do that. So, when are these available for us to see?
They should be available by the end of this week. So,
Right.
if you'd like, I will set up something with Dave Batista for, are you available, let's say Thursday?
This Thursday?
Hmm.
Yeah? But I'm
Okay.
just thinking if we had a special, we could even have a special meeting of the board if the board wants to have a special meeting to look at bid documents, or. you
What
could-
time on Thursday?
Well,
I know I'm not available at 9 in the morning.
11 o'clock?
It's your birthday, isn't it?
Hmm?
Isn't it your birthday?
No, isn't the, your depot perk test in the afternoon, I think it was.
Yeah.
I have a Bain real estate meeting at 9,
Okay.
and they're doing it at Pearlie's because they're celebrating my birthday at Pearlie's
Good.
that day.
I'm sure.
Thursday or Monday, or whenever you want to do it.
But,
I think you gotta get, the sooner the better.
Yeah,
yeah,
the sooner the better.
let's
So
aim
you-
for Thursday, 11 o'clock.
11 o'clock?
11
You have it?
o'clock
All right,
Thursday?
because-
Here?
Right,
Okay.
that's fine. Okay.
I mean, ultimately, you're gonna send an email out to all these people that, here's,
Right, that sent letters of interest.
right, here's the website, here's the site, here's the
Right.
download, whatever it is that,
Right, and that will probably be, Leonard Engineering will be the source that they go to in order to get the
right, right.
data.
And how many pages do you think this specification is?
The specification they are going to give us, it's going to be just the reverse of
I
what
know,
we
but
usually
how much are we gonna be looking at on Thursday?
do.
10 pages, 20
No,
pages?
no more than 10,
No more
probably
than
less
10.
than 10 pages.
So we wouldn't necessarily have to see it ahead of time.
Right,
Right,
you wouldn't have to say, and it's going to be that, like the guide rail, they're going to have to make an accommodation for the Department of Transportation's existing guide rail
Mhm.
to be warped into Smith Place.
okay?
You are not going to be able to do that and meet the FHWA recommendations. So they're going to have some sort of custom system. And the whole guide rail on either side is only going to be 50, 60 feet long. They'll be able to confine it to town property. So it'll go from state property onto town property across the bridge. Leonard came up with a very fancy timber guardrail, which I essentially suggested that they remove because it probably won't be like it. It's more likely to be something similar to what's there now, which is it's called an RB shape. It's a typical metal beam rail. Again, very similar to what we used out on Flat Rock Road. But it's not going to meet national standards. The geometry of the road doesn't.
So
Well,
we'll have our meeting on Thursday, and then you want to have your bidders meeting.
Probably is Tuesday the 23rd?
Tuesday's the 24th.
Right.
So if we have our meeting on Thursday, then the invitation would probably go out. You
To
and
go
I
out
do that.
Thursday.
We might be able to get it out Thursday afternoon, depending what happens on our meeting on Thursday. So either Thursday or Monday, the invitation to bid would go out. the invitation to the pre-bid meeting. And then they're actually going to have to physically send a representative here to at least hear what we have to say.
Right, so we meet on the 19th? This Thursday?
Right.
Right, and then we'd have our pre-bid, when do you want to have the pre-bid meeting?
And we'll schedule that on Thursday, and it might be the
24th.
following Tuesday or something like that.
Right. Okay.
You have to leave the possibility that there'll be some, is there the possibility that there'll be any changes to what we see on Thursday?
Possible, but not
Yeah,
major.
there's always a possibility of anything, I suppose.
But not likely.
Not terribly likely, but it's not going to be that rigid as to what we are at. We're asking them to come up with their proposal,
Right,
how
right.
they want to do it. And then, does
Right,
that
right,
meet our
right.
needs?
Where's
So-
it getting like the insurance requirements and
But
bonding
that's
requirements?
just a standard.
A standard thing.
We'll just pick a number as far as the bond goes, probably somewhere in the neighborhood. And again, bonds are typically to put things back in order. So it'll be somewhere between $50,000 and $75,000 for the bond. The insurance is a state requirement, and usually that's $1 million, umbrella type coverage most contractors have. There'll be some questions about we're using the existing substructure on Smith Place. We'll be putting in a new foundation system substructure on the gravel bank road. And we do have the test borings that we had done by Freeman a couple of years ago, so that will be made available electronically also.
Is there anything that the state is involved in because it approaches Route 128?
They will be involved with issuing the town a permit. In other words, even the town of Cornwall has to get a permit to work on the state's right-of-way.
But that's not an issue,
No, as long as the design is approved by a professional engineer, and Leonard will do that. They'll review a design from another professional engineer, so you can have a couple of levels of professional engineers making a proposal. The thing that is a little more iffy is how do you make the guardrail connection? And it is essentially what is there now. It's going to be an improvement, but it's still not going to meet national and federal standards, and the whole roadway does.
but the state's not going to be involved in that either.
Oh yeah, they will be involved in approving it.
Will they require us to meet the,
No, well, they would like it, but it is not possible to do that, and they realize that. I will undoubtedly have to talk to them about, okay, this is what we're proposing. I think they're going to take a look at it and say, well, it's a lot better than what's there now. They're the ones pushing us to do something about Smith Place.
So we'll have both bridges ready for Thursday?
Yep.
Good. And about the access road behind there, I did talk to the highway foreman, and he said they could probably do this.
Okay. I also have a set of cross sections to go along with that particular sketch. I didn't bother to bring them along. The only thing that's a little bit tight is where the neck's down to about 9 foot.
Right.
But we should be able to get through there with the town grader. And once it's shaped up and rolled, then it remains whether we leave it there or whether we take it out.
I think we'd leave it, I've talked to two of the property owners, looks like we have a third property owner that we have to make some sort of, in addition to these maps, we have to get some easement from 3 different property owners, I think. So we'd have to either borrow some language, or David has language,
Right, well, it's a temporary right to construct is what it's called.
right?
And it's for a specific period of time, and then whatever, right the town has to enter upon this property to construct a driveway and rehabilitate the bridge would go away at the end of the project.
So does David have a sample copy, something like that?
I will
Or
ask him that specifically.
Because we did have something like that for the bridge on Lower River Road. we had language.
We even had one over on the Flat Rock.
Oh, we did, all right, yeah,
The
so
two property owners there.
that would be good to get.
And not only
Close.
for the roadway, needing the easement for that purpose, but the whole time in the middle of,
Right, there'll be two separate activities. One is the actual superstructure replacement, and the other being the construction of the temporary roadway.
right,
So two phases. The driveway would go in first, and then the construction of the rehabilitation of the bridge would come at a later date.
Could you, because we are probably gonna also be occupying property during construction, can you
Right,
ask
right.
David to get us, to bring some documents on
Okay.
Tuesday or whatever? I mean, it doesn't have to happen
so
Tuesday.
looking right here now, you got a property owner, a little bit right here, this is a
You
property
got a
owner?
lot right here because you've gotta go from here all the way out to the town road.
Look at this
Is
map,
over
which
here.
is the one that shows the bridge
Yeah,
essentially.
yeah.
This shows what the town actually owns. It's roughly a 40-foot by 50-foot piece that the bridge is on.
Right, but you'll need more
Oh, right.
property on the
Oh, right.
inside.
Well, we're not going to take property.
I understand
We're going to ask for a right to construct, a right to use that property during construction.
Correct, right.
And that's, I'm sure Dave would have a typical form like that, just a right to enter upon private property for the purpose of construction, rehabilitation, whatever. I grew up in there. But this map shows what the town actually owns. And when I was talking about the guide rail, all the guide rail will be on town property or state property, public property.
Right, right, over on this side.
Got it.
I'm just trying to, so this is one property owner, we got a second property owner, and a third property owner here, along with construction activity in here. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 3 with the construction in here.
So we'll do some research before Tuesday and find out exactly what the names
Right.
are for the property owners of these properties. We can guess, but it's important to have the right ones.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Probably.
So are there any other questions that I can answer for the board?
So we're looking at then getting these into contractors' hands about around the 24th,
Right, electronically, we should be able to send them out.
ahead of that, the 19th.
Well, no, the 19th, we're going to meet with Dave here.
Right.
And assuming everything is resolved by the afternoon of the 19th,
Right,
Joyce and I might be able to send out essentially a one-page email to all of the 8, I'll call pre-qualified, the people who have submitted the letters of interest, telling them how to obtain the information to the bid forms and so forth will be available through Batista, through Lennard's website.
okay. Got it,
So we'll do that Thursday this week.
right. So that becomes available Thursday, Friday, somewhere around the 20th. So then we probably, do we need to decide tonight when these bids will be due?
Well, let's do that on Thursday. Determine when the bids would be due, whether it's 3 weeks or 4 weeks, but it'll be somewhere between 3 and 4 weeks after they have access to the information that we're asking them to provide us. So Thursday the 19th, we should be able to make that determination.
Right,
So-
or we can make it on, because we won't have Thursday the 19th. Oh, well, all right, so you want to meet with him and then we can decide on that
Right.
ahead of the meeting, so we set that date.
Right.
Our meetings in May as scheduled are the 1st and the 15th, I think.
Yes, 1st and 15th.
So But we cannot, again, have a special meeting well, I suppose we can have a special meeting in the morning to we can open the bids at a selectmen's meeting, we can have a second. Usually what happens on something as big as this is we would open the bids at a certain date and then have a period of review before we actually meant to decide what happened, or what we get some recommendations back at it. Before we met and decided, we would not decide at the bid opening
Right.
date. So that bid opening doesn't even have to be a selectmen's meeting, as much as we would need to meet sometime, probably before Memorial Day the week
Well, the
before.
22nd would be the next week.
Yeah.
Next Tuesday. And that would be
Right.
giving them a full month, which is what you wanted to do, I think.
But we have to give Roger and David a couple days after the bid opening to review all the packages.
Right, to see.
So we can look at that.
There might be an apparent low bidder, but that is not necessarily the bid we want to accept. It depends. They're two separate projects, so there'll be two separate awards, maybe to two different contractors, maybe the same contractor. There could be any combination thereof.
And in these requests for proposals, they're going to give us references and similar work that they've done.
Yes.
So you can look at this and say, this person did something like this in somewhere nearby or somewhere, and has a good track record of executing things on time.
Right.
Good.
How many days will you need after the bid opening to recommend that we accept one of them?
I'd probably defer to Dave Batista. It'd be fairly easy for me to come up with a recommendation of what I feel would be best in the town's
But he needs
interest.
to actually review the
Right, he
the
needs to
engineering
run some
part of it.
numbers. Mine's going
Right.
to be more or less what I'm looking for. I've got a pretty good idea of what I think I want, but Dave Batista is the professional engineer that has to put his registration number on the line.
Right. So his needs are a little bit different.
He may need more staff time than I will. My staff is very small.
Okay, any other questions about these two bridges for Roger? Any more for us?
No, once we get these two bridges out of the way, the next bridge I think we ought to think about is probably Lake Road. That's down, that's next year's project, most likely. But that's the one I feel that we ought to think about. And that's really a very big drainage area involved there. I guess that's the Hollenbeck River, the headwaters of the Hollenbeck is in that big swamp off of Route 43.
So interesting you say that, because in today's mail were a bunch of bridge reports.
I asked them to send them.
They did.
I contacted Ned Statute and asked what the holdup was.
They did, and a lot of these were done actually a year or two ago.
What a segue.
Good segue.
And I did read through them this morning. There are 18 bridges included in this report. Some of those actually are culverts. Some of them weren't on a couple of them weren't on our radar before. And we should have the board look through all these. It's very useful, interesting reading. Basically 11 of the bridges out of the 18 are held to be in fair to good condition, satisfactory or better condition. So that means they're in good condition. 2 of them are held to be fair or worse condition, and those have been replaced. So in other words, we've got
Well, Smith Place must be on that list.
poor and replaced are Valley Road and Flat Rocks. So these are out of date enough to have, we've done 2 bridges.
Two of those.
Then, I'm not actually sure whether Smith Place is on this, because there are things like Lake Fox Road isn't on here. Might be too long. I don't know.
No, well, that's part of the regular, that's a regular DOT inspection, so that's at a 2-year cycle. We get that when we get all of the, I'd have to look through that report
Yeah.
in order to
So
read.
these aren't all the bridges. There's
No.
some,
Right.
but a good part of, a good
The
overlap.
Majority of them.
Right, so then there's one that needs repair work that has also been done and not replaced, which was the guardrails on Swiss Bridge Road Bridge.
Oh, yeah.
So we've sort of addressed 3
And
of the
also,
bridges.
probably the one up on Music Mountain would be in that list. I know the state was asking us to do something about the
Yeah.
guardrail there, which we,
They actually liked all of these.
yeah, well,
Yeah.
that was
Like
taken
in-
apart by a Jeep, I think.
Right, so there are basically 4 bridges that will need further inspection or work in the fairly near future, and those are Lake Road, Rattlesnake, Culvert, Cogswell, and a culvert on River Road, all the way at the end. There's one there, which is in decent condition, but it's got a crack on the way.
Did we do some pointing up on that one?
No, that's the bridge. There's a culvert before you get there. At Katie Gannett's house, you wouldn't know. I happen to know because I had to go
Yeah.
in the culvert to remove a beaver plug at one point earlier. But anyway, it's a pretty good sized culvert there, which wasn't on our list, but there's problems with some of the head wall there.
Mhm.
So I'll hand this off to you.
Yeah, I'd like to take a look at it.
It's
I'll
good.
Return it.
Yeah. And then I think the board should take a little time to look at it all. It's no 2 alike, all of them different, most in decent condition, some need work, so.
I told you I saw Rick Glidden a while back,
Right,
and we talked about trying to come up with a program where the state asks the selectmen in each town to come up with what they consider to be their bridges that they would like the state to look at. The state does have some funding to do inspections on the under 20-foot bridges that have not been inspected typically since the early 90s. And he was quite receptive to that idea. I haven't talked to him probably a couple months now, since midwinter. But that would be a nice program if it could get started.
great. Okay, well, thank you, Roger.
I will return these to you, Joyce, in the next week or 2.
Okay.
Great. Okay, I'm just writing out the agenda for our next meeting, which is on Thursday, 11 o'clock.
Right, I will be talking to you before then. I'll make sure that's good with David and that,
Because we have to post this tomorrow by 11 o'clock. I've got meetings all morning, so that's why I'm handing this off to Joyce. Okay, so the only things on our agenda would be bridge specifications, right? Okay, thank you. Okay, anything else for Roger? All set? Thank you again. Next on our agenda is the May 18th town meeting. There's basically 2 items there, and that's May 18th, the 7:30 at the gathering room. And that's the budget, town budget for the upcoming fiscal year, and also a separate item to allocate money to repair the docks at Hammond Beach. We have some specifications to go out tomorrow on that, and we should get some numbers back by our next meeting. So the thought is that we would sign the call to the May 18th meeting at our May 1st meeting and be able to fill in the blanks as far as how much money we need to do the docks. So those would be the 2 items. Okay?
Will we have the numbers at that point?
Yeah. So we go out to bid now, they'd have over 2 weeks to give us some numbers. It's easier than building a bridge.
Yes, hopefully it'll be
Right.
less money than the bridge.
Right, hopefully, yeah. Okay, so those are the two items on the May town meeting. Next thing, I took a crack at updating our bidding policy.
Well, I think that's moving the numbers up is inflation creep. That's what we're talking about.
Right, and I also put in there that we can, depending on what we want to do, we can get some bids by email, that we don't have to rely on written sealed bids for everything we do. And strengthen the language about the board's ability to accept or reject bids that we feel are in the best interest of the town.
I think at every opportunity that we place something out there, we want to express that same concept, that it's in our general bid policy and it's in every bid that we put out into the,
Right.
that we can accept or reject any bid for the best interest of the town. Then it's in a number of places along
Right.
with the base place, and it goes out at every single place.
Mm-hmm. And again, if we have we can, for example, when we buy the new highway department loader, we can use the state's bidding process as a substitute for getting sealed bids if Jim or whoever feels that's the best way to get a price. In other words, participate in some bulk buying of equipment or materials, as long as it's gone through some competitive process.
Several years ago, we rejected all the bids on a particular project when
Right.
it was deemed that it was too expensive,
Mm-hmm.
and put them back out to bid the following year.
Okay. Any comments, changes, additions? We can always amend this another
No.
time, probably before the next.
No, it looks like you're doing this the right way because you want the beach work done first.
Right.
So it can be completed by June.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the first one. You want the bids
Right.
by, if I'm reading this correctly, they're due by our next meeting, which is
Right.
May 1st.
Right.
And then
And-
the second thing that you're doing, that I'm not sure I understand. The bid request for the town of Cornwall. Bid,
Oh, the building thing.
the building,
Yeah.
because it sounds more general to me. I don't know.
Right. But we can talk about that we added that to the agenda.
Okay.
So I just thought we should approve, if you both are comfortable with this, we can approve the policy first, and then we'll talk about specific other bids. But
Because wouldn't you be putting out specific requests? This looks like just a general blanket
for the building stuff?
for the building stuff.
Well, we'd send that out to several people that we felt were qualified to be able to do that type of work.
But I think the first thing we want to talk, and will we make a motion for this then?
Right.
So this
adopt
is
to
this
adopt
bid
an updated
policy right here, is the one.
Okay,
that
well, the
is-
bid policy I'm comfortable with.
So
Good.
I'll make a motion that we amend or adopt,
Update, yeah.
update our new,
Update.
our bid policy to the April 2018, as submitted, as we're discussing, as written.
And I second that.
Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So next is our
The
bid.
beach dock bid.
Our beach dock bid, which again is replacing basically what's there, slightly smaller, but
And
it seemed
since
like it's. And
today is the 17th, it sounds like we want this to go right out
right.
because we want the bids in by our next selectman meeting.
Correct.
I make a motion that we
Send
put
this
the
out.
beach dock bid submit out
Right,
now.
yeah. Okay.
I'll second that. And do you have several
Yeah, I have
individuals
like a
that,
half dozen local contractors that could
Okay.
do this construction.
Good.
Okay, so we will email it to them or mail it or whatever, however we can get a hold of them. Okay, so motion to send that out. Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay,
moving
So
on.
now it's the one that I'm confused about. Now we're
no,
up
we're
to the
not.
buildings.
no, we're not quite there yet.
We're not quite there yet.
That's the added on.
No.
item.
That's the addition, we're getting there. The next thing is the budget hearing, just to advertise that this Friday at 7:30 at CCS, there's a meeting on the town's budget expenditures for the upcoming year. So everyone's urged to come, and printed copies are available at the post office, town hall, library, and I believe this is on the town website, Cornwall website.
I think so, yeah.
I think it is. Right, so everybody's urged to come to that. Next is West Cornwall sewer meeting. There is also somewhere, there's some posters going up about a meeting of the West Cornwall sewer septic report, which is going to be on May 8th. See if I can find that, if I don't already have it. I think that's at 5 o'clock at West Cornwall. Does that sound right?
Does sound right. And there'll be two members from the state.
Torrington Area Health Department and one from the state.
Right.
Where was it?
At the Hughes Memorial Library on Lower River Road.
Who's gonna be there?
It's at 6 o'clock, I believe.
Five.
5 o'clock, thank you. And it's to talk about, the names I don't have in my head, but there are 2 delegates from the Torrington Area Health Department and one from the state. And I have it on my computer. I can send it to you when I get home, Ruth.
I want to say Kathy Weber and Tom Stanisfield.
Yep.
From Torrington Area Health, and the person from the state was
Ann Strout.
it Ann?
It is Ann,
I thought it was
Will
somebody
be.
else.
right?
I thought it was somebody else that Ann wasn't going to be able to make
No,
it.
Ann's coming, Roland's not.
Oh, okay, yes, that's right. You are correct.
Yeah.
So they're there to just,
Answer questions about,
people who
From-
are concerned about,
yeah, from a regulatory standpoint, what is normal practice as far as dealing with a town or a community or a village that has older systems, and what is the procedures, what's the engineering normal, what does the state recommend, what does the health district recommend towns do under these situations. So hear it from the experts. So, but I think also the engineer will be there. Steve McDonald from WMC will be there also. Okay. So that's coming up. So Joyce is downloading. Are you downloading a copy of that, Joyce? Right. So then, under additions, I have this bid request, which is a request to have several contractors look at these buildings and again request, what we're trying to do is get a report on these town buildings that would let us know pretty much from top to bottom what needs to be done in their condition. Similar to the bridge report, but not necessarily done by a structural engineer. This would, what I would propose, and I've talked to John Laporta about this because the Board of Finance sort of requested that we go in this direction, that we would hand this out to several local major contractors that deal with all these systems and get a prioritized list of what needs to be done immediately, what needs to be done in the short term, and what can be done over time. And then again, get a report to us in a fairly, in a month or two, going through all these buildings and say you need a new roof at the salt shed and you need a new furnace here and hot water heater, so we have some idea on the systems level what we need to do.
So I think this is a great idea. I mean, this is something that has been in discussion for a while, and it's coming to a head, and we're going out to bid and finding out what's going to happen. I think it's a fairly comprehensive amount of work to be done,
Right.
to really check it out. I had a few questions.
Good.
On the buildings, you have highway, I'm not sure what it's referred to, the highway garage building number 2, the new one in the back.
Right, so
And-
what John suggested this morning was that we put highway garage in related buildings, because there's actually the salt shed and there's a fairly new steel storage shed behind, so there's actually
3 buildings.
So there's actually 2 related buildings there.
But I think we ought to make
Right.
sure that they realize that there's 3 total buildings.
Correct.
And then also the transfer station is not on here.
Okay.
So whoever's bidding on this doesn't all of a sudden get caught with an extra building,
Absolutely.
or unaware that there's a second or third building that they should be looking at.
That's what, yeah, fine.
And I think, the HVAC system, the plumbing, the roof, the exterior, the interior, the electrical, I'm not quite sure if the septic ought to be on the same list here, if that's in the same domain as all of this, or that's separate, or that'll hold up. And,
Well, again, I think
I mean, it's an important aspect.
If
I'm not
somebody's
saying
going through it, they might as well go deal with that too, and give us a report. This is when these fields were put in. This is when it was updated, and so
but
we
is
have
this
it all
gonna-
in place.
Is this going to require somebody to pump each one of the tanks to see where that's at? Do we have a list of some?
Maybe. Yeah, or at least find out where the plans are and when they were installed and which ones have been updated
So,
and which.
well, where I'm going with this is, I think the idea of find the plans, find where they are,
Right. I think
shake
we
the
do-
tree, find out what's happening.
We
But
get as much information as we can, and if there's something that's not known, then
But are we asking them to get each one of the tanks pumped, is where I'm going with
no,
this?
we just want to report as much of that, and they may say you need to pump it as a separate thing.
Okay, because I think one of the best ways to determine
Right.
how the septic system is to find the tank and pump it.
Yep,
Is-
and maybe we do that. Yep.
And maybe that's what'll be in the
Right.
report, is what you're saying, that this is, okay. That's a little harder to find, though. That'll be a little investigative work to find out where the,
Yeah, they're pretty well known though. We know where we at least know where the covers are.
okay, well, that's what
Right.
that's what I'm asking, because you don't have to ask where's the boiler.
Right.
You can find the boiler.
Yeah,
If you have to
I think
find
with all
it.
these, yeah, we pretty well know where all the fields are and where the covers are for pumping. The other aspect is in here that we didn't actually talk about was a per hourly rate to assist us in bidding repairs so that we have somebody, if this person does it, they can give us a per hourly rate, because if we have to pull the oil tanks or put in new furnaces or whatever else we want, and Paul Prindle has been good about doing this, but we may need some help at some point to, if we need bidding and we find we have to do a bunch of repairs, we want somebody to help us out in the bidding process, so why not put that in there too?
It's a pretty comprehensive set of information
Yeah,
that we're requesting,
right.
I would say. I mean, maybe you go through this every time there's a closing, somebody,
Yes, but it requires more than one person. Every time we have a closing, we have a certified home inspector who comes through and evaluates the building. But then if there are problems, we have to go to a septic specialist, to an air conditioning specialist, to a furnace man.
Right.
I mean, it's not one person that can tell you what it's going to cost. A general contractor can give you a broad stroke, but a homeowner about to make a major investment needs to know more specifics than that. So if you're talking about handling the town buildings that way, that was my original question. Who's going to figure this all out? Because I don't see one person.
Well, I mean, John and my assumption was that most of the people we're talking about here are general contractors that could deal with all these different, I mean, they
They
may
can
have
call
to.
in a specialist if they
Yeah,
need
they,
to.
they may have to go and hire electrician to go through and say this works, or they may have to hire, they see something that's obviously wrong with a plumbing issue, they may have to go get some help
Yeah.
with it. But generally, if they can build a house or a building from scratch, they will have experience in all these different
I mean, it'd be
systems.
easy to see if one of these buildings still has fuses. Well, we need to upgrade the electrical system. That's,
right, that's
But,
pretty straightforward.
some things are very straightforward, but
We'll
this is
find
a
out what we
big-
get.
This is a big package you're talking about
It
here.
is.
Just to get it just the evaluation, I think, would cost you several $1,000s.
Oh, yeah. But no, I think this is major.
Okay, so
This
we're
is
all
a
on the
major
same page.
expenditure, but this is what
Okay.
the Board of Finance, wanted, a snapshot of a
Okay.
town. It's a pretty valuable,
Yeah.
important asset of the town, and just at this point in time, have somebody look at it and say, this building's fine, this one needs this. Sooner
Well,
rather than
I
later.
think it's a good idea.
Right.
I just think it's a very expensive idea.
Yeah. Yeah, well, said that's their decision on how do we allocate and protect town resources, and they felt this needed some attention, so.
So you're saying you want to put this out with a few adjustments possibly, in terms of the building definitions, and do you have a list of some usual
Yeah,
suspects
I've talked
here?
to some, John had some ideas, I had some ideas of who might be able to handle this, might be interested. 3 or 4 people that know the local trades and reasonable prices.
You probably already know the buildings,
Right,
they know where they are anyway.
have been in them. Yeah,
I'm still a little, I'm a little concerned how we define the septic system aspect of it, only because that's a wide variation in terms of what somebody's going to bid on it. If when one person's mind that requires digging up and finding all the tanks and doing something, and in somebody else's mind it doesn't, then there could be thousands of dollars difference in price.
right, no, I don't think we're talking about digging, other than maybe it's time we should go through and just pump all the tanks.
Well, yeah, but that's a
Anyway,
separate issue. I
That's
mean,
the
that's
whole
a-
thing.
So I just want somehow have it defined that maybe it would just be locate the septic fields. Verify and locate the septic tanks and fields. I mean, the only way to really check them is to pump them.
Right. And that's not impossible either.
No, it's not, but if one person does it and one person doesn't,
Right.
then there's,
But if there is pumping as part of this, I don't think they would have to pay for that. If we pumped
Sure,
it out,
sure.
that's a normal maintenance of the town, so we would pay for that, and if they wanted to see what happened when we pumped it, then we make that available. Could go around and just pump all the tanks in the spring anyway.
For the pumping, just basic maintenance. You might
Right.
find you need to replace a lid or something.
right,
you
no,
know,
so,
or
I
a baffle.
mean, do you have any
Right.
recollection when they've all been pumped in?
They probably do,
So
I
may-
would think.
So maybe,
Yeah.
maybe we say on here then maybe we say in here, we will
Tank
have all the tanks pumped.
Right,
And
In
they
the
can
spring,
be,
during the-
and they can be inspected at that point.
yep,
And that'll be the town's expense, and that'll be part of the project. You gotta find the tank. We'll pump with the, I'm not sure how you word that, but somehow defining,
we'll find the tank, because we know where they are.
we'll find,
We'll have the tanks will be pumped.
tanks will be pumped and you can evaluate them.
Right. Right.
So then everybody's on the same plane
Right.
as to what's
Yeah.
gonna happen. That's all I'm trying to,
We can just say the tanks will be pumped at town expense.
there you go, at town expense, there you, okay.
Okay? Got it. All right, any other changes before we go out? Again, we can accept any or all bids. Or reject any or all bids if we don't feel we get, this comes back at $150,000, we don't have to accept the bids. But I don't think it will.
No, I think this is great. I think it's a
Right.
great idea. It's been talked about and it's gonna happen and we'll find out
That's
where our
it.
buildings are at.
Right.
So,
Okay, I'll make the motion that we put out the bid request for the town of Cornwall buildings
Okay.
as listed on this form, with particular attention being paid to septic tanks by pumping them out to inspect the quality of the tank, the lids, and the baffles.
Okay,
second.
any more discussion? So the changes we're gonna make off this draft is that highway garage and related buildings, add the transfer station, and then under plumbing and septic system, tanks will be pumped at town expense during study. Okay? All in favor? Alright,
Aye.
so there's that, Joyce. Alright, so. Okay, so that brings us to public comments. Any public comments? Anybody still awake? Yep. All right. Okay, any questions from the press?
Nope.
Got a story? Good. All right. So anyway, thank you very much for coming. The next item is delinquent taxes, which we have to go to executive session to talk about. So.